Well, hello, Nativity Bible heads. It is Dr. Wayne, and this is your, Sunday morning Power Bible Study. I am your excellent host, the Reverend Wayne B. Whitney, PhD. Yes, I do have a PhD. I got a doctorate in New Testament studies. From the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. When was that? 1990. In 1990, I was 30 years old, and when you do a doctorate, you have to. This looks like my thing is too far. You have to take other areas, besides, even though it's in New Testament, you take other areas. So I had three areas. My main area was New Testament literature. I also took an area in New Testament language, Greek, right? And then I took a section in Old Testament literature. And I must confess that was my weakest area of the three. And you know what? That might be the reason why I tend to teach from that a lot. You don't see me preaching so much from the Old Testament, do you? But you do get a lot of that from me when I'm teaching. I find it fascinating. I think the Old Testament is fascinating, and the New Testament, the narratives of the Old Testament are just rich, and I think they're valuable because of the fact that they meant a lot to Jesus and the early church in their formulating how they understood Jesus, and. It's that, you remember that Emmaus Road incident after the resurrection of Jesus when he's walking along and they don't recognize him as Jesus, and he starts teaching them everything that they wanted to know, or like he starts opening up the scriptures to them, and the scriptures at that time is what we call the Old Testament. And so if it was something that worked for Jesus, it should be something that can work for us. So last week we were in Deuteronomy, and Moses was dying, and Moses died, and we were told that there would be, that Joshua, son of Nun, was going to be taking over leadership. And in today's lesson, we are in the book of Joshua. Joshua is the name of the book that follows Deuteronomy. And Joshua takes on a role like Moses. What we saw last week, remember Moses died, he was shown the land, he was told he wasn't going to enter the land, but Joshua, son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands upon him, and the Israelites obeyed him, doing as the Lord had commanded Moses. So Joshua appears as someone who is 100% in line with everything Moses did. One of the things I got to say this now to make sure that I don't fail to get it in later, and that is this. Jesus is seen as this kind of Joshua. He's not Moses, but he's got the same authority as Moses. People are supposed to listen to him as Moses. He is not doing away with Moses. He is fulfilling Moses. This is what Jesus does. And also, interestingly enough, the names Jesus and Joshua are almost the same name in Hebrew. Yeah, Interesting, huh? So, Joshua, yeah, does he show up as a kind of Jesus? Yeah, he does, from our perspective. But this is our perspective from our Christian perspective, right? So anyway, we're in chapter 3 of the book of Joshua, and just look at chapter 1 to begin. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, "My servant Moses is dead." What's going to happen is Joshua is going to get his own commissioning. Yes, Moses had laid his hands on him. You were wondering where we get that laying of the hands thing? That's where it comes from. That's what they did back then when they conferred authority from one to another. Moses laid his hands on Joshua, but in the first chapter of the book of Joshua, the Lord commissions Joshua. So he gets his marching orders. Look at this. Look at what it says. This is important because when we see what happens in chapter 3, we'll be glad we did. My servant Moses. Okay. Now proceed to cross the Jordan. I'm in the middle of verse 2 of Joshua chapter 1. Now proceed to cross the Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the Israelites. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I promised to Moses, from the wilderness and the Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, to the great sea, that's the Mediterranean. In the west shall be your territory. No one shall be able to stand against you all the days of your life. A little hyperbole going on there. Lots and lots of stand against happened. But anyway, as I was with Moses, middle of verse 5, so I will be with you. And nobody had a closer relationship with God than Moses, right? Remember that? The Deuteronomy writer was clear to say that Moses knew God face to face. That's a pretty high claim, right? As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall put this people in possession of the land that I swore to their ancestors to give them. So it's like, you buck up, little camper. I'm going to make good my promise, and guess what? You're going to be the one to do that. God always has somebody that he uses. Have you noticed that? That's one of the themes also here. God always has somebody that he uses. And it's very clear on who that is. Verse 7. Be strong and courageous, being careful to act in accordance with all the law that my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, so that you may be successful wherever you go. Joshua becomes known as one who's very, very, very faithful to the law. Verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to act in accordance with all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall be successful. Okay, be strong, courageous. Happens again and again. Anyway, I, the Lord. Oh, last verse. Gotta read that. Chapter 1, verse 9. I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Remember how Moses had to talk God off the ledge a few times about being with him. But with Joshua, we are progressing, evolving into a more mature relationship between God and man. And what we saw in Moses was like the creation of something that of a relationship between God and man. Here we find like, oh, we're moving toward a more sophisticated, is that the word? Not as simplistic, a more adult, there you go, a relationship. So, between God and man. Okay, so let's look in verse 3, because I've spent 10 minutes on not verse 3. Our actual verses were 7 through 17 of chapter 3. But I'm going to cover the whole thing. Early in the morning, Joshua rose and set out from Shittim and all the Israelites, and they came to the Jordan. They camped there before crossing over. That's kind of a little bit of a summary statement. So what's happening is here, they remember where Moses was when he died, the plains of Moab. Where's Moab? Moab is on the east side of the Jordan. And if you're gonna go into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Jebusites, I missed a couple of sites in there. You're gonna have to cross the River Jordan. Crossing over, oh my goodness, crossing over, that last two words in verse 1. Big, it's a big theme, oh my goodness, the crossing over. Crossing over, we even use the expression today in talking about like people who've died. That's one of the euphemisms for death, that they crossed over, right? Crossing over Jordan, oh my goodness. It's such a big motif in biblical theology, because there's always a body of water. Doggone it, for some reason, there's always a body of water that pops up as a barrier between where you are and where you're promised to go. Think about it. Egypt, body of water separated them from wilderness. Here, River Jordan separates them from the promised land. When, fast forward to the exile, I know, spoiler alert, things aren't going to go well. They're going to not, 700 years later, they're going to be exiled. And, oh, is there a river in view there? Yeah, it is. The Tigris Euphrates, you know, because they get exiled to the north, to the Babylonians. So even then, there's a body of water that divides, and they cross over into exile, and to get back, when they are allowed to get back in the 6th century, guess what? There's another crossing over. So crossing over. I can remember a sermon title. I don't remember the sermon specifically, but a sermon title a seminary professor talked about once of, they won't all cross Jordan with you. They won't all cross Jordan with you. What does that mean? It means that the promise that God has for us, we might be in the wilderness now, there's a promise, there's a river, got to cross over to get to that promise. They're not always going to, it's kind of a justification for, you know what? There will be people in the church that don't stay because they aren't willing to go where God is leading the church. That's the thing about, they won't all cross Jordan with you. Got to recognize that. They won't all cross with you. So, it's a good lesson, actually. Whatever you think of nativity, we are crossing over into something. And you know what? Not everybody will come with us. You know what? That's the case. That's just the way that is. Never has been any different. We won't all cross Jordan with you. Okay. Wow, 15 minutes in. My commitment is to do this 30 minutes, okay? And this is Sunday morning Power Bible Study, so yeah, no prayers of compliment at the end. They camped there. Okay, verse 2. At the end of the 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people. So there's speeches here. The first speech is from the commanders. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God being carried by the Levitical priest, then you shall set out from your place, follow it, so that you may know the way you should go, for you have not passed this way before. What this introduces is the Ark of the Covenant. We're familiar with the Ark of the Covenant. Remember, the Ark of the Covenant is that thing that represents the presence of God. It's not an idol for God. It doesn't represent God. It represents a throne for God, the invisible God upon which to sit. But the presence of the Ark of the Covenant in this makes the whole crossing over the Jordan a liturgical act. Remember when, oh gosh, this is later. I'm thinking of, there will be, later on, there will be battles, both in David's day and in Joshua's day, when the Ark of the Covenant is taken out onto the field of battle as a way of a power play of saying, our God is with us, you will not stand. So the Ark of the Covenant, the presence of that makes this a liturgical experience, the crossing over. Follow it. And I'm in the middle of verse 4 of Joshua chapter 3. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, a distance of about 2,000 cubits. Do not come any nearer to it. 2,000 cubits is 2,900 feet. That's like 2,900 feet. That's like 10. That's 300 feet is a football field. It's a 2,900. That's like 10 football fields almost. That's gotta be hyperbole. Come on now. The idea being the holiness of God, we aren't always prepared for that. And it's best to just keep your distance. Verse 5, then Joshua said to the people, so there was that speech, that was the officers speaking to everybody. Now Joshua speaks to the people. Sanctify yourselves. Again, it's a liturgical thing. It's an act of worship, this crossing over. Okay, I just had a thought about where I want to go with what I want to say, and I'm going to save it for later. Sanctify yourselves. I'm in the middle of verse 5 of Joshua 3. For tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Bum, bum, bum. Verse 6. So the priests, Joshua said, take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on in front of the people. So they took up the Ark of the Covenant and went in front of the people. Okay, got the picture? All right. This is the promised land. This is an experience of worship. Sanctify yourselves. The presence of the ark, the priests, the respect for the presence of God. This isn't just like a celebration in a locker room with champagne being poured over people's heads and stuff. This is a worship experience. The stepping into the promised land. Verse 7, now we're into, in the last 10 minutes of my lesson, now we're into verses 7 to 17. The Lord said to Joshua, this day I will begin to exalt you in all the sight of Israel. Yeah, begin to exalt. Remember, he's the Moses guy now. So that they may know that I will be with you as I was with Moses. He already told Joshua that he would be with him. But the Lord is now saying, today's going to be the beginning of, they're really going to get that. They're going to get it. This is going to be good for you. It's as though God is saying to Joshua, this is going to be really good for you. Verse 8. You are the one who shall command the priests who bear the Ark of the Covenant. So remember how we had a speech by the commanders to the people. We had a speech by Joshua to the people. We had a speech by Joshua to the priests. Now we have a speech from the Lord to Joshua. When you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. Verse 9. Joshua then said to the Israelites. So it's like, okay, he's like, Joshua's like, he's down the line. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Draw near and hear the words of the Lord your God. Joshua said, by this you shall know that among you is the living God who without fail will drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and don't forget the nasty Jebusites. Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, Jebusites. The Jebusites were the people in Jerusalem, by the way. This is a formulaic listing of the people who inhabited the land of Canaan. Okay, very formulaic, very liturgical even. Verse 11, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of all the earth is going to pass before you into the Jordan. Notice this expression, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of all the earth. Before that, we saw a thing about in verse 10, referring to God as the living God. These are words that are very specific in regard to saying that, yes, we recognize our Lord as the creator of everything and even the Lord of all the earth. Even this earth, this portion of land that is being transferred from one owner to another, yeah, God is even the Lord of those people. And, I had a thought there. It's also the theme of creation, that, yes. But also, historically, when we look at this time that the Israelites were taking over this land, the Canaanite city-states were in a state of turmoil. Egypt, which had a lot of control up there. Oh, my hand looks really big. Which had a lot of control up there. Egypt had withdrawn, and the city-states and Canaan, they were in turmoil. So there was a transition time going on anyway. So the fact that this is the time that the Israelites came in, it isn't the same thing as taking the land from the Native Americans like we did. It's something different. There was no systematic, centralized thing. Everybody was in turmoil at that time. So everything was tossed up in the air, and that's when the Israelites make their entrance. So that's the reason why it's not like this bold play of that's your land. Well, it's my land now. Yeah. They really didn't have the possession of it like we think of possession today. Okay, how do you like that? Okay, look at this, verse 13. Oh no, verse 12. So now, select 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. We're not told anything about why. That happens later in chapter 4, which we're not going to get to, but it has to do with them collecting stones and making a monument to commemorate what happened there. Again, something very symbolic of the liturgical nature of this story. Verse 13, Joshua 3, verse 13. When the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, you've heard that before, rest in the waters of the waters of the Jordan flowing from above shall be cut off. They shall stand in a single heap. The word single heap there only occurs twice. Two times in Scripture. Single heap. The other one was the Exodus. Yeah, when they left Egypt. Yeah. So, are you picking up a little like, wow, this sounds a little bit like the crossing over at the Red Sea? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Verse 14. When the people set out from their tents to cross over the Jordan, the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant were in front of the people. Now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. That's a way of the narrator saying, there's a lot of water there. The water can be pretty, the Jordan River can be pretty narrow, especially in the dry season. Our narrator is making sure we are aware this wasn't the dry season. Now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. So when those who bore the ark had come to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark were dipped in the edge of the waters flowing from above stood still, rising up in a single heap. Single heap. Far off at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan. That's a few miles north, I don't know, about 6 or 7 or 8 miles, something like that, north of the Jordan, where that city is. While those flowing toward the Sea of the Arabah, the Dead Sea, were wholly cut off. So the idea, say the Jordan River is a north-south river, and it's basically saying that at the point at which they crossed the rivers that was coming down, it stopped there, and from that point on, there was stoppage, 100% stoppage. Very much like the Exodus, right? I mean, it was in the middle of verse 16. They were at the Dead Sea, were wholly cut off. Then the people crossed over opposite Jericho. So this is, we know what Jericho is. It's right there north of the Dead Sea on the west side of the Jordan. But that's where they crossed over. Verse 17, while all Israel were crossing over on dry ground, that's language from the Exodus experience. It doesn't literally mean dry ground, but it's supposed to make us think of that Exodus and that work of the Lord. This is the same kind of a work of the Lord, dry ground. It's a euphemism, if you will. It's not. It doesn't matter what really happened. It probably wasn't dry, but this is the way we talk about it, right? That's how we celebrate it in liturgy. While all Israel were crossing over on dry ground, the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan. I've stood in the Jordan. Oh, that's some muddy water. In fact, I have a picture of that, of me standing in the Jordan from a couple of years ago, until the entire nation finished crossing over the Jordan. Crossing over. That's the thing. Every promise of God gets fulfilled in a crossing over. Especially when it represents stepping from an old place of being into a new place of being. Next week, we're going to be at the end of the book of Joshua. And this is the beginning, that's the end, so we're only going to spend 2 weeks in Joshua. But this story, if you read my article in the newsletter, this story arc, it's going to culminate. We're going to see something in Judges, and then we're going to see something in Ezekiel. But know this: the Lord is with His people, and will never stop trying to get them. Joshua is that last of those charismatic leaders. Jesus fulfills it. There's a little bit of that in the David, but not like it is with Joshua and Moses. Okay, that is it. Blessings on your day. Bye-bye.